Welcome back to another episode of Hot Take with myself, Terry Flewers, and Mark Goldbridge. Like, share, and subscribe. How are you, mate? Good morning. Feels like a long time since we streamed.
It does. But I think that the timing's probably right because it feels like the Premier League is hotting up now in these last few weeks. The Champions League is starting to get to the best bit. And I felt like January was really good. February was flat. And then it feels like March is going to bounce with the football, and obviously got the World Cup on the horizon. So yeah, football. I still think we've got a bit of an identity crisis in relation to. I thought Chelsea Arsenal was a terrible advert for football, but it feels like we're getting a lot of games now. We've got midweek games, Champions League. So yeah, there's a bit of momentum building around football, which is good.
No, there certainly is. I'm loving it. I'm loving the facts. I'm not going to lie. We're 6 wins in 7. I don't remember the last time we were 6 wins out of 7. You know, playing. I think we're playing well in large parts. You know, I wasn't happy with the first halves against West Ham and Everton, but overall, West Ham and Palace. But overall, I'm quite happy. Scoring goals, Šeško's firing. So from a United perspective, I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying watching Tottenham maybe get relegated. For me, it's so fascinating to sort of, as a spectacle, to watch a team with their money, their stadium. You know, they've spent more money on players than Arsenal in the last 6 years. So watch them go from Champions League finalists to potentially relegated team, and not like a Leeds United, not like you overspent, you're basically bankrupt, and you can't afford good players anymore. Portsmouth were similar, overspent, pretty much were on their way to going out of business. You understood that. This is the opposite. They're getting richer, they're making more profit, they're spending more money, and they're getting worse. It's great. So all of that I think is excellent, and probably a good place to start actually with. I want to actually start a little bit with Tottenham, and it's the news that's come out today that Tudor is on the brink of being sacked just weeks after taking over the Tottenham manager. It would be the first time Spurs have made a quick decision. Nuno Santo was appointed in June in 2021 and sacked in the October, just 4 months later. But there was a number of Spurs sources yesterday evening, Mark, that were talking about if he loses to Crystal Palace on Thursday, he gets sacked. What's your take on that? Do you think that would be the right thing for Spurs to do at this point?
I think I understand it in a sense. I disagree with it, but I understand it in a sense that the enormity of this relegation would be catastrophic for Tottenham. So if you bring a guy in and after a very short period of time, you realise it's the wrong guy and there might be somebody else who's the right guy, you don't want to be sat there in the summer saying we could have done that. So in that sense, I understand why they could do it. But then the bigger picture is if you're a Spurs fan or even looking in what's going on at that football club, because you cannot be doing that. Like, it looks so bad. Like you took too long sacking Thomas Frank. You bring Tudor in, which people are sort of like, who? And then you sack him after 2 weeks. It's a bit like Wilcox at Man United. You can keep making changes and making decisions, but ultimately you're the decision maker. So this goes beyond the manager. We had the Ange interview on the Overlap where suddenly Spurs fans are going, oh, Ange is right. Well, he was right when he was there. You just blame the manager because that's what we all do. We blame Amorim. We blame Maresca. We blame Ten Hag. We blame Ange. We blame Nuno. We blame managers because that's what we do as fans. And then a year later, when the club's still shit and that manager does an interview, you go, oh, actually, it wasn't their fault. Of course, it's not their fault. They're just an employee in a position where they're restricted by the decision makers. And Tottenham's decision-making in the last 2 years has been horrific. And also it's another warning to Man United. Building a stadium doesn't make you successful. You've still got to make the right decisions. Tottenham make a lot of money. Beyonce, NFL, massive, amazing stadium. But like you say, they've spent it badly. They've bought the wrong players in. The mentality in that football club is all wrong. And it's been wrong for a very long time. And maybe Tottenham do need a relegation because I've spoken to some Tottenham fans. They don't want to go down, but they're like, we need a massive reset in that football club. It sounds very familiar, but the decision-making is disgusting. Look, football is about banter. Football is about rivalry. But I'm sure there's even Arsenal fans there that, as much as they're enjoying it, sit there and go, I'm glad that's not my club. Like, that is just, you're powerless. Whereas in other leagues, you might have fan ownership like Bundesliga. But the Premier League, we're powerless as fans. And these prats just ruin it.
It's interesting for me because part of me is enjoying watching it. And maybe that's due to the way a lot of Tottenham fans have been personally towards me in the last few years. I'm enjoying watching my dad squirm. But where I agree with you is I don't like bad owners running football clubs. And I think it's always funny for a period of time when you're watching a rival club go through the mire. But in the grand scheme of things, there's always that element of if the FA and the Premier League and UEFA are allowing those owners to run clubs that badly, well, you sort of, although you sort of joining in with the fun of it without calling out how bad the ownership are, I think it just helps. It just helps keep bad owners in football, which one day might mean you have one. In terms of sacking Tudor, I think appointing him was a wrong decision. I think they should have done a little bit of what United did, and they can't get the new permanent manager in that stage of the season they were in. They should have got someone.
Give it to Ollie.
Well, Ollie could have had it, but I think they should have gone after a manager.
Ollie might have kept them up, actually, to be fair.
He might have done, but I just think they needed to go and get a Tottenham man who's a semi-decent coach who can put his arm around the players and galvanise them to get 4 wins. I felt from the second Tudor came in, 4 wins is probably enough to save them, even from now. The issue is they brought someone in, and I know he's a good player in his day, but none of the young players know who he is. His managerial credentials are poor. He's sacked from all of his last jobs. He wins less games on average than Thomas Frank does. It was a terrible appointment. Where with United, what we did, and I'm glad it is working in the short term, is we brought someone in who understands the club, knows the pressure. I think Carrick, it's fair to say, is a good like day-to-day coach. He's brought in Jonathan Woodgate, where there's a lot of things being said that he's a decent coach, not a good manager. Steve Holland's worked at those levels, and we're just doing very simple football, and we're getting the best out of these players for the situation that we were in. And in the summer, we're going to assess it, and we're going to actually talk about that later on the show, what they're going to do. But I look at Spurs, and they've just made the weirdest decision bringing Tudor in, but it is still salvageable. But it's salvageable at a cost. You've got to sack him and pay him off. You've got to bring somebody else in. And I feel like someone like Robbie Keane that's doing quite well at a lower level of football at the minute, by all accounts, a really competent coach. I think he demands the respect of the dressing room when he walks in. He understands Tottenham. The fans would be on his side from day one. And it might just be enough to, because I think if they win 4 of the next 10 games, they stay up, because I don't know if Forest and West Ham will win any more than that. They might win 3 or 4, but that's about the maximum because they're not very good in comparison. But with Spurs right now, their players aren't running, they're not fighting, they're not giving their all. It's like they don't want it, and that's the fear factor. And if Tudor can't get them playing, he might lose his first 3 games on the bounce as Spurs manager. And I don't know if that's ever happened to them as a club. It's crazy times.
I think with an interim though, you're right. Like if you think about Xavi is available now, if Man United had gone for Xavi as an interim till the end of the season, I don't think he would have won the games Carrick's won, even though I think Xavi's a better coach. Because I think you're right. I think an interim, their job is to come in and galvanize and, have some familiarity that the players respond to, because ultimately the players have let the previous manager down normally. So these Spurs players have let Frank down. So bringing in Tudor, who's not even managed in the Premier League, the players, it's a bit like when Ranić came in. Ranić was a very good coach, but the players didn't respond to him because they're like, who the fuck's this? Because players are arrogant. They don't educate themselves on the fact that Ranić is a brilliant coach. They're like, who's this? And I think Tudor's in the same position. Whereas if they brought in like you say, a Robbie Keane or somebody that's played at Spurs, there'd probably be more of a reaction because the fans would react. I mean, the fans are very important. Like you put Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United, it's Ollie's at the wheel, Carrick's at the wheel. You put Ranić there and the fans don't really know who he is. And it's the same with Spurs. Like if them fans are looking at Tudor and sort of going, who is it? And I think, again, you're right. They've made an error because an interim is, this guy doesn't need to get the job. I don't believe in interims getting the job. I've said that multiple times, but this guy needs to keep Spurs in the league. And I think they will stay in the league simply because I don't think West Ham have got a very good run of fixtures, but they've had 2 opportunities to get those 3 points and they've got another opportunity on Thursday. And if they don't get it, I think I probably would look at a change because beating Palace at home, they've got to do it on Thursday.
No, I don't disagree. And a few people are saying, Terry, David here says, galvanize them with what past history that works with United due to history. You can't do that with Spurs. But Tim Sherwood came in and did it.
Right,
Tim
Mason
Sherwood
did it.
They came in and stabilized things. They weren't the answer for the future, but Spurs are in free for all. under VS Boas. It was going absolutely awfully. They were in a really bad situation, and Sherwood came in. I'm not too sure. He won about 50 to 60% of his games. Now, he wasn't the guy to take them forward, but it's happened before, David. Learn your history before you talk, my friend. Learn your history.
Look at Di Matteo at Chelsea. I mean, this is the one I use a lot on United Stand. I mean, he came in March, and I think they'd lost the first leg of the Champions League knockout. They won that. They went on to win the Champions League, won the FA Cup, and they stabilised in the Premier League. I mean, he is history's best ever Premier League interim manager. The next season, he was fucking shit. But for those 3 months, I mean, he won the bloody Champions League. So, an interim is by definition quite an easy job if you get the right guy, because you literally just come in, galvanise, make people feel happy. You don't drop people, you don't sell people, you don't fall out with people. It is just literally. I mean, look at Carrick at Man United. He's reducing the training time. He's giving them more time off. I guarantee if he gets the full-time job, he won't be doing that. But it's about, how do I make these players happy in the next 3 months to get as many good results as I can? Yeah. And it's worked. But in the long term, it won't.
So I went and looked at it just because, sometimes you remember things. So start of that season up until December the 15th, when VS Boas was gone, they'd lost 5 games and drawn 8, and they'd won 8. Which, again, isn't the worst ratio in the world, but it was getting worse. They weren't playing well. And then Tim Sherwood comes in and they win 5 of their next 6 games. They lose to City 5-1 and draw with Hull, then win 3 of their next 4 games. They then have a little bit of a bad run where they lose 3 of 4, and then they win all but 1 of the last 6 games. So Sherwood
gave him the job, didn't they?
Yeah. I think Sherwood went. I don't know if he stayed at the end of that season. He went at the end of the season. He literally went to the end of the season, and then I'm not sure who came in after that. I think it might have been Poch. Poch then came in the summer of 2014, but it's happened before, and I think that's what they should have done this time around. And I don't know where all their ex-players are right now, but again, I don't know if he's got coaching badges, but the name that comes to head is someone like Ledley King. Going into that Spurs dressing room is going to command respect. Footballers know who he is. This generation of footballers remember him. He knows Tottenham. The fans are going to be by his side. And so half the reason they're losing these games at home, if you listen to their crowd, it's like a funeral. And it's because they've got no hope. And somewhat, like, whether people like Carrick or not, you listen to our home game, especially the first couple when Carrick was in charge. If we'd have gone out and got Igor Tudor, there would never have been that physical response from the fans in that way. So yeah, they're in a bit.
Well, the problem Spurs have got, and you make a good point about their fans as well, is that West Ham and Forest, when they're in these relegation games, they'll be like cup finals, because they don't see any shame in being in a relegation battle because they're used to it and they understand it. Spurs fans, they're not going to enjoy it. It's like United wouldn't enjoy it. We wouldn't be like, this is a cup final. We'd be like, there's almost that embarrassment that they're there, which is why if West Ham get within a point of Spurs, it's trouble. I think they've got to win on Thursday, really. They've got to keep that gap to at least 4 points for as long as possible, because the minute they get sucked in, they haven't got a team for a relegation battle.
No, I totally agree. Speaking of interim managers, let's take a look at this clip here. Viewers, if you haven't done it yet, get that like button hit for us, please. Let's take a look here at Skulls and Butts podcast.
Coaching style is like, but I wouldn't think he'd be massive on the coaching side of it. But Michael's brilliant with people. He hasn't got the experience yet, but as a man manager, I can imagine him being very good. You might have to think about a bit differently about employing a Man United manager, because I don't really think you need the most technical coach. These players are already good players. They know what they're doing, and maybe they just need a man manager. If you look back to Sir Alex, he was never a coach, really, was he?
No.
But he knew the players, he knew what players needed, he knew how to treat players. When you were left out of a team, he made you feel $1 million. Maybe Real Madrid with like Carlo Ancelotti, Zidane. I don't think they're the most tactical coaches, not obsessed with doing different things every day, but more putting their arm around the people. You see Amorim, who you assume he's obsessed with tactics, obsessed with the way we're playing, and it didn't work. You think of Real Madrid and Xabi Alonso. Again, what he did at Leverkusen was brilliant tactically, but the Real Madrid need somebody like that. But all these people who are man managers, they always have a brilliant coach next to them.
Steve Holland,
which Michael's got. You think of our manager, you have Steve McLaren, you have Brian Kidd. Can Manchester United win the league with this manager? It's not a case of finishing top 4, top 5, top 6. You have to have a manager you think you can win the league with.
Well, What would you make of that, Mark? I know you're someone, and I want to make sure I represent, because I always see you get clipped up for mad stuff at the minute. I saw someone the other day, they put 5 seconds out of you saying you would sell Bruno Fernandes, and I was like, yeah, he did say if he's going to continue playing deep, not if he's in the 10. So you get
apparently it's bad at the moment. Beth messaged me last night and said, "Are you okay?" I went, "Why?" She said, "Oh, there's a lot of clips around about the minute." I went, I'm on top of the world. I'm managing the team in the Baller League. I'm having a great time. I said, "This is a lesson, Beth. I don't go on social media and I don't listen to these people who clip me up. So they're all just probably giving me free publicity, and it will be." I said to her, "It would be horrible, but I don't give a shit because it's just not representative of what I've said anyway."
Well, I was going to wait till the end of the show to do that. But by the way, congratulations for managing and getting the team into the Ballers League show, which obviously a massive, massive show in itself. So well done and congratulations for that. And
I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, let everyone else. I'm playing centre forward. I'm not. People no.
I'd like to do that, but I think it's going to be very competitive. You know, someone said, "Are you going to play 5 minutes?" I went, "If I play 5 seconds, it'll be 4-0.
Yeah, do you know what? The standard's very good. And someone said to me before, "Would you play in it?" I said, "Mate, I don't think I'd have put my name forward when I was 25, let alone when I was 40." But no, well done on that. But in relation to what Scholesy said here, that he's kind of, I wouldn't say sitting on the fence, but I think he's speaking about this in quite a balanced way, which is maybe we don't need. We've tried it with Ten Hags and we've tried the kind of tacticians, hasn't really worked. Maybe it is about us having good coaches, good players, and a really good man manager that can help the players navigate the pressure of being a United coach. And the question is, after 6 wins in 7 games, should that be Michael Carrick?
First and foremost, I think what Paul Scholes said is really interesting because, Sir Alex wasn't a coach and he would know that, and so would Nicky Butt. And I don't think Carrick, I think Carrick is a little bit more of a coach because obviously what was he doing under Ollie then? Because why was he there? Because he has to be a bit of a coach because he was the assistant coach to Ollie. So he must be a little bit of a coach. And the position he played as a player, I'd be very surprised if Carrick isn't studious around the game. But where I disagreed with Scholes is that Real Madrid don't need a coach because they'll have loads of coaches and they've got amazing players. I find a level of hypocrisy that maybe Man United don't need a coach, they just need a man manager. Well, we need a whole new team according to some of our fans. So these players don't just need a man manager. We need a half a squad, and we do need proper coaching. Steve Holland's well respected in the game, but when you look at his style in the last few games, and when you look at England, it's quite a simplistic style. And we know that our players work well in a simplistic style. I would say about United in the last few games, the results are good, but tell me what the style of play is. Tell me that we've played well. And I'd say, well, no, I don't think we have. I don't think we have played well. And I don't know what the style of play is. I think you've got to take your hat off to the results. But to me, it just feels very interim. It feels like before Christmas, we wouldn't have won. We wouldn't have beaten Palace. We wouldn't have beaten Everton because the mood wasn't right. But the mood's really good now. And it's amazing what a mood can do. I mean, against Everton, I thought they were better than us, but we scored a goal and we deserved to win. I think against Fulham, they were very unlucky not to get a point, but we won. And I think against West Ham, they were unlucky not to beat us. And I think Palace probably would have got something if we hadn't have had the red card. So a lot of things are going our way at the moment, but I wouldn't give Carrick the job. No, I can't give Carrick the job at the moment. I think it's got still, I said it a few weeks ago, we've got to get to the end of the season. I don't trust these players. I don't trust the board. And I don't trust giving it to an ex-player who's doing well again. So I'm very much, I want to wait till the summer. There is a scenario, though, where he is the best candidate because we don't have any good candidates, which would be very, very bad on the board if they can't offer up a better candidate than Michael Carrick. And what I mean by that is Enrique doesn't want it, Nagelsmann doesn't want it, Tuchel doesn't want it, does he? Ancelotti doesn't want it. If they're literally saying it's Carrick or De Zerbi, I'm probably going to go for Carrick. But it feels like it's going down that road, Terry. It feels like Carrick might be the best choice, but nobody can tell me Carrick's not a punt. He's an absolute shot in the dark. And we've done this before.
I feel, look, first and foremost, where I agree with you fully is it's too early to make this decision. And I suppose it's hard not to talk about it because everybody's talking about it. And it becomes a topic where I feel we need to wait till the end of the season. Where I disagree is I have been impressed with how we played in the 7 games by and large.
thought the first 2 games were brilliant, but where's that gone?
No, I understand that, but we're playing different types of teams. And so, for instance, I do agree that I didn't like how we passed the ball against Everton, and I didn't like how we passed the ball and moved the ball in the first half against Crystal Palace. Totally agree. That was really poor. The mistake in the West Ham game was more Carrick. He should have started Schmeichel because we had the ball in great areas. We dominated the ball. We just didn't have anyone to cross the ball into, and they just sat very deep. So I think that was more personnel. But, you know, little things that I noticed in the games, and the stats back it up. We were, under Ten Hag and Amorim, we were conceding on average 12 shots per game inside our own box. That's dropped down to just below 5. We're conceding less big chances, less XG. And I think over a course of time, these things matter. So I think we're in a better defensive shape. I think the way we're being drilled to, when we lose the ball, to get back into shape, to not isolate the midfield, I like what we've done in that regard. But where I'll always give Carrick leeway is the same way I gave Amorim leeway. And people, where you're spot on is people don't like to do this when it comes to the managerial talk. They like the manager, whatever the problems are, it's the players. Players need better players, need better players. I've said all along, and I know you'll not advocate, but agree with me on this, or confirm I said it more than agree. I've said we've got an average to good squad. So therefore, am I expecting the most scintillating, the most beautiful, the most out of this world football with this squad? I'm not. The question is, when you improve the players, can the level of football go to that next level? Are the coaches good enough? And that is a really fair question. But I also look at a lot of our games recently where teams have sat deep against us and gone. For instance, I thought against Everton, I thought Bruno was horrendous. And I love Bruno Fernandes, but he was horrendous in that game. But equally, I'm looking around the team going, who else can unpick a lock? Who else can play that through ball? Who else can make something happen when you're up against the... And that's where the scouts come in and the recruitment team come in, because we've got to buy our way through it. We've seen Pep have to spend 600 million on his squad in the last 12 months because it was nowhere near able to win a Premier League title. So if we're looking at one of the greatest managers ever who has to have 600 million pounds spent on his squad to get the football back to a level where he can challenge, I can't look at Carrick and go 100% shouldn't get the job because he can't make this team tick every single week. And I think for me, it's a balance. I totally agree. Right now, I wouldn't give him the job today. I'd wait until the summer. I am going to be disappointed if we can't attract any of the top coaches. But do you know what I won't do is take that out on Carrick. It's not Carrick's fault if we've been run so badly for 15 years. No, but I look beyond Wilcox. I think Wilcox. I like it's 15 years that's led to where we are now since Fergie, 14 years. So I won't. But this is where I want Man United fans to engage our brains. Don't hate Carrick because we can't get Luis Enrique. That's what we end up doing. Like you said earlier, we end up blaming the managers. We end up blaming the person that's easy to shoot down. And that's my concern. If we end up with him, I want us to get behind him. And I just have this horrible, we don't do that at United. We have a really loud minority online that go, I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm going to attack what I got instead, as opposed to looking at the root cause problems. And that's probably my big fear in all of this, is that the new manager, if he isn't one that's loved by the loud minority, he's going to be the scapegoat, like you've just said, like all the other previous managers, and we ignore all the other issues at the club.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think this is, like, I haven't seen the clips of me, but I would imagine it's simpletons who just don't have a brain, because at no point have I said, I hate Carrick, get rid of him, he's shit, or anything like that. I just don't want him to have the job. Now, Michael Carrick's actually one, if people watch the United stand, he's a player I regularly speak about as, you know, we need a Michael Carrick, like a brilliant player. Absolutely loved him, underappreciated, neglected by England, ridiculously good player. So good. It's nothing to do with Carrick. I just don't think he should get the job. I'm very scared about him getting the job. You know, he is, I understand why he'd want it, but this comes down to Manchester United. Michael Carrick can't force the job. He can walk away and say he doesn't want the job, but he can't get the job without somebody at the club saying him. But it's a really simple equation, right? If Michael Carrick gets the job, then there is going to be a huge amount of scrutiny on whether it's a mistake or a risk. For him not to get the job, they've got to put something in place that's really good. Well, who's responsible for this? It's not Michael Carrick. It's not the fans. It's the board again. And they did this with Ollie. When they sacked Mourinho, they brought Ollie in and said they were going to have a best-in-class recruitment and they were going to get a top manager in the summer, and then they gave Ollie the job. When they sacked Amorim, they said we're going to get a best-in-class recruitment for a manager, and they're going to give Carrick the job. Because the danger is, and I've had this chat with Beth, is that what the risk is if you don't give it to Carrick and it goes wrong, And I said, but the risk is if you give it to Carrick and it goes wrong, because if it goes wrong, everyone's going to go. Look, to be honest, if I was Sir Jim Radcliffe, I wouldn't give it to Carrick. I'd go and get Nagelsmann or Enrique, because you can't be criticised for that. If you go and get a top manager and it goes wrong, you can't really be criticised. But if you give it to Carrick and it goes wrong, everyone's just going to go, you're just the bloody Glazers. You're just the Glazers. You do exactly what they do. And so there is a massive risk for them in giving it him as well.
There is. At the same side, though, you know as well as I do, you've been in this game for so long now, that if we end the season well, finish third, scoring goals, not losing many games, and then we get Nagelsmann or we get Enrique and it goes wrong and we end up going backwards, the board will the end of the day, the board are only going to get credit if we continue to get in the Champions League and continue to improve our squad and continue to get better in the league. No matter what they do, if we don't improve, they're going to get stick. And in fact, even if they improve, I get the feeling that some people will not give them any credit for it. So one thing I would say to Sir Jim is I almost would say to him, to a degree, don't listen to the fans. Because, and what I mean by that is whatever group's unhappy, you're going to hear. Generally, when fans are quite happy, you don't really hear them talk about their ownership. And we know that at our club, right? And how many times we spoke about, there'll be all these protests when I'm telling you this now. I know I've retweeted the same as I have the 1958 group, but let's be honest, because they removed everything on their manifesto about the ownership and the debt and recruitment and challenging. The whole thing's about ticket prices. If tomorrow Sir Jim said, right, there's going to be a 20% discount on all tickets forever, they'd stop protesting. And I'm not saying they shouldn't fight for lower ticket prices. My point is those protests are happening because those match day fans feel they're being charged too much. If they suddenly add the right prices, all that noise goes away. So as much as I get where you're coming from, and I agree, if they get the decision wrong and we don't improve, they're absolutely going to get destroyed. My actual fear when I spend time thinking about it is I'm fearful of every decision because I feel like we've tried everything. And people like to rewrite history. Now, this guy was maybe past his best. This guy was this guy was that. There is a risk with every single coach that comes in that it doesn't work. And I'm fearful of that, especially when I keep saying I'm on a gap year at the minute. I'm just enjoying life each day as it comes. My fear is whoever we come in, I'm going to be nervous with. If we do keep Carrick, it's, what if it don't work? If Enrique comes in, it's, we got rid of Carrick and it was working. So I don't disagree. I think the most important thing is that we've got to wait until the end of the season. And in fairness to their ownership, that's what they're doing. And I think they're making the right decision there.
I think it all comes down to ambition. We don't know what the ambition is. I think if they go for somebody like Carrick or Iriola or De Zerbi, that's my fear is they just want top 5 for the next 5 years so they can get the Champions League money and build the stadium. And I hate that because how do you criticize top 5 every year? Some of our fans will be very happy with that, but I'm a Man United fan who thinks we should be challenging for titles. That to me is worse. In some ways, when you finish 15th, people are unhappy. When you finish second, people are excited. But when you're finishing 4th or 5th every year, become Wenger under Arsenal, and I don't want that. It's mediocre. It's and some of the fans are happy with that. Whereas if they go and get an Enrique, then the ambition is not to finish 4th. It's because no manager like that's going to come in. If you get a Nagelsmann or Enrique, they want to win the league. And then that means maybe the club want to win the league. Whereas I think if they go De Zerbi or Carrick, I'm sort of like going, I think the ambition here is 5th or 4th for the next 5 years and, steady income.
It could be. At the same time, when we went and got Ten Hag and we went and got Ruben Amorim, the thought process they are the next great manager. They're on Man City's shortlist. So I didn't look at those appointments as we're not trying to win the league. I think there is an element of, we also have to be mindful of where we are squad-wise. So for instance, I think the biggest reason a Nagelsmann or especially Luis Enrique would say no to us right now is they'd look at the squad and go, it's nowhere near the level I want. Some of those elite managers might look at it and go, I'll come when that squad is top class. I don't actually blame anybody for that right now because even Ineos, with what they inherited, it was always going to take 3 to 4 years to build a very good squad. But that's where then I look at this. That's why I was happy to see the news about the profits in the club. I'm not happy with the overarching finances, but okay, I was happy there was profits and I said this on the United Stand. Now you fuckers have got nowhere to hide. We get in the Champions League, nowhere to hide when it comes to spending money on the right area, which is the football club. And that for me is the positive news. If we're announcing losses, as much as we don't like it, that gives them an excuse not to spend because the losses are there, right? So for me, getting into the top 4, you're showing this we're making profits, getting to the top 4 in the Champions League, now have a bigger summer than last year. What I will say is I think the recruitment last year has turned out to be really good. And have another summer like that and bolster that midfield, better fullbacks, a new left winger added to the club, and let's see what we can do. But look, viewers, I'd love to get your take on this. Love to get your opinions below. This here says this club needs someone that gets the club. Luis Enrique and Nagelsmann will both fail where they've had two new shiny things and failed. Give it to Carrick and just support him. Is what Dean says here. But look, we went to Ollie before, and he knew the club, and it didn't work for us. At the same time, I always feel there's a happy medium potentially in this. And I feel like with Ollie, after about 2 years, that is when we should have gone, right, the squad's starting to look really tasty. Now let's go out and get the elite guy. There may be a period where a Carrick's great for a season or two. And then you go, right, now we're ready for a Luis Enrique if we're not seeing the signs that he could go on to truly win a Premier League as an example. So it's hard. It's a hard one. I don't necessarily think just give it to someone who's been at the club before. You need the best out there, but the best out there's always got to want again. For me, a slightly uncommitted Luis Enrique that we're paying £30 million a year to is a bigger gamble than Michael Carrick, because I want a manager like the players we signed in the summer who go, I want you. I want to be the person that builds you again. So we've got to wait for me for all the information, which is why I think a lot of these conversations are a little premature, Dean. But great challenge on there. Let's move on a little bit from this. I want to play this clip from Peter Schmeichel talking about Arsenal. Let's take a little listen here.
Period of the game. All the goals we've seen now, all the pushing and shoving and pulling players down. I think we need to get onto the referees now and say, this has got to stop. Now, every time it happens, give a goal kick or a free kick and start over so we stop it. Because it's not, I mean, that's not in the spirit of the game. It isn't. And it's literally, you got like 6, 7, 8 fouls on every corner kick we see. And it's not good. It's not.
I would imagine a neutral. You don't go to watch football to see that. You want to see the beautiful game. And I feel sometimes, the refs, they've let more go this season because they want the old football back a little bit.
We need to stop this. We can't have all these games and the championship decided on corner kicks. We just can't.
You know as well, when you're like going for winning the title, that all the other teams, they're doing everything against you to not score from open play. So you need to find ways to also score in different ways. And that's why you use the set pieces. I think that's why you need to train. I'm not saying it's a thing that makes the game more beautiful. No, not at all. But if the opportunity is there, the possibility is there to use that, then I think you need to do that.
Fair analysis, good punditry. I mean, at the end of the day, there is a massive problem with the Premier League this year. We can all see it. It's dull. It's really dull. And people have been saying it for a long time. And we had more 0-0s in January than we've had an entire season last year. So it's dull. We're not getting enough goals from open play. Bruno Fernandes has got a lot of assists, but where's the other? The assist table's shit this year. So we're not getting a lot of we are getting goals, but we're not getting a lot of good goals. And a lot of teams are very focused on set pieces. You can't change it now. Like I would be fuming if they made changes now. Like you can't make changes during the season. This has to be for next season. So we'll have to just grin and bear it for now. But already I've seen for the World Cup, they're bringing some good things in. There's going to be a timer on throw-ins, which is brilliant because it's not just Arsenal, by the way. I think Everton against Man United last week was disgusting. That at least Arsenal are playing NFL. They've got to play. They push, they barge, they make runs. Everton would just stand as many people around the goalkeeper as you can. It became a farce. But look, Brentford, I've seen them taking throw-ins. Their right back jogs over to the left wing. That's taking 10 seconds. He picks the ball up, he drives it. That's taking 10 seconds. Some of these throw-ins are taking 40 seconds. Like you pick a ball up and you throw it. There shouldn't be any of this running from right back. I mean, we were doing it under Amrin with Delo. At least Carrick's not doing that. Delo was running over from right back to left wing to take long throw-ins. What they need to do, and it's really strange when you watch a different league like the Bundesliga or La Liga. So the halves go so quick. The ball's in play more. It's so less stop-start. So Peter Schmeichel was right. And Jaap Stam's right. I understand why Arsenal are doing it because it's a way of scoring goals and football has become very analytical. The Premier League needs to create a league that is watchable and entertaining. And it's very easy to change. You bring time limits in, which they're going to do in the World Cup, and you start giving some fouls in the penalty box on corners. You do. You start going, that's a foul. That's a foul. And then teams will have to evolve. The Premier League are in control of this. Like they can stop it tomorrow. They shouldn't stop it tomorrow. They should stop it in the summer. But it's easy to stop. Everyone's right to moan and have an opinion. Maybe some people quite like it. I hate long throw-ins. I hate these corners. It's like watching Wimbledon in the early 90s, and people used to take the piss. So the Premier League just need to tweak the rules a little bit. My opinion.
I'm not against it. I agree with you completely that they can't do it mid-season because some teams have benefited through being able to do it, and some people have been penalised for it. You can't suddenly stop it halfway through because I think you can't change rules in the middle of the season. You damage the integrity. You know, sometimes it's why the handballs this weekend confuse me. The Declan Rice handball, the Nunes handball, and everybody's going on about Man United's red card, which I agree Cunha went down easy, but he's definitely being pulled. And if anybody wants...
But just jumping in on that, you're absolutely spot on, because I watched the Man City-Liverpool game. Gehi pulls Salah down in the box. That's probably going to cost Arsenal the title then, because this is where I can't do. I have That's Football, I do this, I have United Stand, and maybe we're very popular because we don't do the whole red tinted glasses stuff all the time. And when Cunha went down, I instantly said, I'm not going to lie, I could sit here going, get him off, this, that, and the other, but I'll get clipped up by people who watch That's Football. That's not a red card for me. That's so soft. Fair play to Cunha, but ultimately it's on the PGMOL. Go and watch the Gehi clip on Salah and then tell me that that's a red card on Cunha. It's not. But that's the inconsistency, isn't it?
But this is where I agree on you about not having the red tinted glasses. I thought Gehi's on Salah was a penalty and red card. I felt it carried on into the box, and you could see Mo Salah's going to get onto the ball, and he's at the same angle as Cunha, and he's going to have a shot. And Mo Salah, I know Mo Salah's had 9 games without a goal, but Mo Salah having a shot from there is a clear goal scoring opportunity. It 100% should have been a red card to Gehi and a penalty.
But when they don't give it, they shouldn't give it in a Man United game.
This is where I agree. So for me, well, I agree, but in reverse. I think it's a foul. So then they shouldn't not give it for me to Cunha. They need to give the right decision. But the problem is they defended their decision with Salah and said it was the correct one. Therefore, you shouldn't be giving that. So my personal feeling is they're both fouls. They're both red cards. They're both penalties. But I understand the pushback. But what I found was really interesting in the United game is Lacroix's handball. No one anywhere has discussed it. That was the worst handball of the weekend. And but it was 3 handballs in 2 days that have been given all season. And for whatever reason, this weekend, they decided not to give them. Now, whether there's been a briefing and they've said, we're no longer going to give handballs if it's in close proximity or if they're grappling on the ball, fine. But 1, you've got to tell us. And 2, what about all the poor sods that have conceded penalties for that already this season? How is that integral to the league that you've changed the handball rule at some stage? And all of that needs to be looked at. But in terms of how you play, I agree that they should change up. For me, I would add a box within the 6-yard box, just 2 new lines inside the 6-yard box. It isn't going to take too much work. And no one's allowed in it, or no more than 1 player can be in it. If you're in there and you touch the goalkeeper, it's going to be a foul. Bring something in that's very easy to manage that stops the crowding of the goalkeeper. I actually think a lot of Arsenal's corners they score, where their players run from deep, out-jump their opponents and bullet the ball in with their head. I'm not against that. That, for me, is not what's in question here. What's for me, I don't even mind the grappling amongst players. I'm not against that. Because for me, both sides do it to each other. It's really normal. If they want to get rid of it, get rid of it. But for me, it's the crowding of the goalkeeper is the one bit I look at, and I'm just not a fan of it. But I think time limits, I've been asking for this for 20 years, Mark. My first ever time I went on TalkSport years ago, before I ever thought I'd do this, it was this show where Adrian Durham and Darren Goff were saying, what 1 rule would you change in football? And I said, time wasting. And I said, everything has to be taken within 10 seconds. And my punishments were quite harsh, like goal kick, 10 seconds. If you don't, it's a penalty to the other team. It looks like they're bringing in, maybe not the punishments I wanted, but they're bringing in those rules finally. I agree with all of that. But the one thing that I don't know how you address this, look at this, is up to date as of this weekend. Look at how deep the defenses are against Arsenal. You then get Brighton, United, City, Chelsea, Newcastle in a cluster, and then you get everybody else. That also means Man United, by the way, in the last 5 games has moved nearer to the Brightons and the Man Cities with the way we're playing. Teams are sitting deeper against us now. But this is also one part of it where I don't blame Arsenal. And the reason why I won't blame Arsenal is because one day this is hopefully going to be Man United again. And by the way, up until the last 2 seasons, City were up in that top quarter with them. Teams sit back and they are so deep and they are so negative against the better sides. And I defended this for years with Man United and got angry with it to a point where I think one of the other things I wanted them to bring in is you can't have any more than, it's hard to do because of offside, but I was like, you shouldn't be able to have more than 8 players in your own half. Because the one thing that bores me more than those corners is watching teams sit behind the ball for 90 minutes and just not try to attack at all. That for me, if you're going to look at anything in the game that for me kills it and makes it boring, it's so many teams against Arsenal, against City. They're now doing it against Man United. Just go, right, we're going to sit in. We're going to be really compact. And we're not even going to attack when we win the ball. We're going to knock it long into a channel and see what happens. And if we don't win the ball, we're just going to sit deep again. For me, that element of football never seems to get criticised, but yet a long throw does. At least the team taking a long throw are trying to score a goal. At least a team being a bit rough on a corner are trying to score a goal. These fuckers sitting deep, they're not interested in playing football. But for some reason, that's seen as absolutely acceptable for our game from a spectacle point of view, but a long throw isn't. I don't know how you change this because it's a really hard one, but those fuckers...
Wenger's new rule is going to make it worse.
Sorry?
Wenger's new offside rule is going to make it even worse. You know, apparently they're going to start trialing it in Canada. The whole you're not offside unless your whole body's offside. Well, that's the death of the high line. Why would you play a high line now? You just won't bother. So, I mean, this is what happens when people get old. They come up with stupid bloody ideas about, legacy. Arsene Wenger this, Arsene Wenger that. The guy's in his bloody 90s now, isn't he? Don't know what he's bloody on about.
No, I hear you. I think the rule sounds great when you see an offside given, and there was the offside for what would have maybe been the winning goal for Burnley, and it was like a centimetre of his shoulder. I get it. For me, I think
it's still offside though, isn't it? It was still be the same the other way. Even if it's your full body, it'll be when there's a line, there's always going to be a toenail. Like people forget that.
And I'm not worried about the inch thing. I would do it this way. If I was going to change the offside rule, I would say we measure it by the attacker's feet. So if they're leaning forward, but their feet are onside, I'd give it as onside. Does that make sense? I look at that and go, if you want to give an advantage, because this new rule is to give an advantage to the attackers. Absolutely is about an advantage to the attackers. Just base it on the feet, because I don't think anybody likes seeing an offside where it's a centimetre of somebody's shoulder. Or the one I saw the other day, and it might have even been Man United, it was where somebody pointed to where they wanted the ball, and the point made them offside because it made their shoulder go over the line. And I'm like, that shouldn't be offside, should it? Like, that hasn't given them an advantage. They were actually onside. So yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I agree. I just think that football's hard at the minute, and it sounds crazy. It's because a lot of it stems from everybody trying to win, and they're desperate to stay in the Premier League because the money's so high. So I don't think a lot of people care about. I don't think most teams care about how good or bad the football looks. It's all just about
you can see it with the kickoffs. Can't you? I mean, like, why? I still don't understand why every single kickoff from every Premier League team, the goalkeeper boots it for possession. Like, there's no logic to it. Well, there is. It's about high possession, but it doesn't actually lead to a goal. It's just, when you actually think about it, why not just kick it off and pass it back to your right back and have a bit of possession? Like, it doesn't. This is what I mean. Football in the last couple of years has become so strategically data analysed. It's took the fun out of it. We're not seeing great goals. We're not seeing individuality. We're not seeing open play goals in the way that we used to. It's all about percentages, isn't it? That's what it is.
But that's what I like about the way Carrick's making Man United play. I feel it's a bit more old school. I feel there is structure to us defensively, but I feel it's a little bit more sort of, to coin maybe a bit of a working class phrase, like go out there and enjoy yourself, lads. There's an element of that to it which I like. The problem that you have is that the top class analytical chess playing coaches seem to always outdo those guys. The great thing is when it comes to the legacy debate, when people go, who's left a better legacy on the Premier League, we definitely get to say Fergie and Wenger did over Pep now, because Pep's is one of the reasons everybody started doing this to compete with him, and now everyone thinks football's dead. And it's also a warning for anyone who takes the Manjaro jabs. You never know what it's going to look like in 10 years' time, so be very careful when you start doing things now. Yes, Terry, the fucking low block, I hate it. We watched too many Premier League teams with no shots on target for 60 minutes, so I am falling asleep. No, I agree, Ray, and this is why I think the attacks on Arsenal are over the top. I think there was times where they haven't been good enough in the attack and they should be criticised in that moment. But I'm seeing fans of teams who play with much lower blocks, are far less expansive when they play, do the exact same things on set pieces. I'm seeing Chelsea fans, by the way, who attack, by the way, don't sit back, who have scored a higher percentage of their goals from set pieces this year than Arsenal, attacking Arsenal for set piece goals. And I sit there and think, this is where it's all getting a bit warped for me. It's almost like people are blaming Arsenal, and I'm going, hang on a minute. I saw a video. I can't play the video footage, unfortunately, because of copyright. But do you remember a goal that Alonso scored against Arsenal for Chelsea about 7 years ago? And he knocked Bellerin almost unconscious, and Bellerin couldn't even stand up. He was dazed, star-glazing. He jumped up, he wins the header, but his elbow smashes through him. Go back and listen to the commentary. And it was all, basically, it's a man's game. Arsenal were too soft. They're no good at the dark arts. They've got to get better at like fighting fire with fire. They start doing that, and everybody wants it to be removed. They weren't the ones who started. It's a lie, and I know a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. David De Gea was targeted by opponents in this same way for how many years, Mark? Because they knew he was pretty soft at it. You'd have done a watch along for the game. We conceded the goal against Sheffield United for him being manhandled. They didn't give a foul. We went down the other end and did the same thing to their goalkeeper. They disallowed our goal. It was Vicario versus Man City. I've seen City fans on their high horse recently going, oh, you never see us our players roughing up opponents on corners. Yes, you did. You were the team that discovered that if you rough up Vicario on corners, he's shit. You were the ones who did it. So this is my issue. I don't mind the conversation about how do we stop this at corners. But this idea that Arsenal started it, lie. The idea that football's got boring because of the way Arsenal play, this is a lie. If anything, it's Pep Guardiola and everybody copying him, which is absolutely fair. But it's the teams that are sitting back and being negative. That's the bit I find so crazy. It's a lot of the teams that are sitting back and being negative that are not attacking. The teams that when they played Arsenal this year have not tried to score goals, have the audacity to go, Arsenal play boring football and are killing the league. No, if all of you did what Arsenal did, do you know how entertaining the league would be? If all of you played with a high line as high as theirs, and you attacked as much as they did, and you stopped being so negative, the league would be more entertaining. But you know why you don't do it? Because a lot of you know you're going to get slapped up more. And the winning is more important. So I think let's have an honest conversation as grown-ups about this and look at where football can be improved rather than this stupid finger-pointing game. Because, by the way, the only reason you're having to go at Arsenal for it is because you're scared shitless they're going to win the league. And you can't be, and that's it. If Arsenal were 8th playing this way, you wouldn't give a shit. You wouldn't be blaming them whatsoever. So let's be honest about it. The idea it's their fault, I find jarring because it'll be Man United they blame next when we're doing well, and it's just, it gets on my nerves. This is something that's got to be done about the Premier League football. It's hideous. I'm over 40 and I am so bored with the style of play of football, with class, fast-paced football. But not anymore, slow and WWE-like. I still think the ball moves quite quickly, but you've also got to look at this side of it. I don't think it's anybody's fault. The level of athlete now in the Premier League is crazy. So it's so much harder. We have players that we think are quite quick, and Boomer's quite quick, and Dorgu's quite quick. But how many defenders can they actually strip anymore? Plus, I'll tell you what's gone from the game. Fucking sweeper keepers. How many times now does the ball go over? You see a striker. Oh, the striker's going to be in. No, he ain't. The fucking goalkeeper's there. That didn't used to happen 20 years ago. The goalies were in their box. The amount of times now, ball goes over the top. You go, oh, we're through. And then suddenly out of nowhere, the keeper arrives and boots it into the stands. There's all the, and again, I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm just saying sometimes, it's part and parcel of football. Maybe it will maybe you change it. Maybe the goalies can't leave their box. I don't know. I'm just,
it needs to be coached though. Like, players need to be allowed to take people on and encouraged to take people on. I was looking at the Arsenal game at the weekend and I was like, Cole Palmer had the ball out on the wing. And I was like, you could run at that player there. He's got the ability to run at him. Well, you might not get past him, but you might get past him. And he didn't. He just slows it down and passes it back. And you're like, this is coaching. This is coaching. Like, you know, sometimes people get it 35 yards out. Trust me, in training, they can put it in the top corner. They could have a go. No, but don't do that. It's all percentage. It's all about probe, you know.
Yeah.
Tactically, the game is pretty dull. Coaching is quite diluted. But the Premier League can change it. Like, for all the moaning, they can't do it till the end of the season. You can't change things in season. I'm dead against that. But they can change things. All the moaning shouldn't be aimed at Arsenal or Everton. It should be aimed at the Premier League. They can change things. They can change it easily. They changed it with goalkeepers, didn't they?
Yep. Well, this is exactly it. When people go, Terry, what do you mean the goalies can't leave the box? Like, I'm spitballing on a podcast. I hadn't thought about that situation prior. But if you'd have said 35, 40 years ago, I'd stop pass back rule, everyone going, you're mad. When they introduced yellow cards, oh, you're mad. What do you mean introducing yellow? All these things would have been rejected initially as damaging to the game. But sometimes new tactics come in. You have to look at it and go, could a change be made that improves things? And yeah, it's a difficult one now. But
my big thing is just to get the game flowing. Having seen the Bundesliga on Friday nights, like I don't know a lot of these teams. You know, I'll be honest. Like, watching Augsburg play Hamburg, I'm not going to know that as much as watching Spurs Palace, but it's a better watch. And the games fly by, even though I don't know a lot of the players. And how is that? Because the ball's in play a lot. But
I think we as fans play a part of this in this though as well, Mark. And I think one of the areas for us is maybe pushing back against the narrative of win at all costs. Maybe there has to be a cultural change amongst us as fans of the Premier League and what we demand from our clubs, but then what we accept in the result, in the sense of, I'm not saying be happy regardless of the result every week, but maybe if there is more of a push to, we want to see football being played. And if we're playing well, but we don't win every week, we can accept it. I think what's also forced clubs into doing this is the social media era. And you could play scintillating football, but lose, everyone's angry. You play boring football and lose, everybody's angry. Everybody cares about winning, and it's win at any cost. We've got fans now that justify their clubs cheating. Oh, yeah, but I just want to win. I want to win. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, people say. That whole attitude will also lead to this brand of football where the result is more important than the way people perform. And I've done this many times on match reactions where I've gone, start of the season, first game against Arsenal, Man United, I went, look, I'm unhappy to lose, but I really liked how we played. You loser. You loser. You praise. You're happy with a loss. You're a mug. I'm like, no, but I'd like us to keep playing that way. And I feel over time we'd win more games than we lose. Sadly, we didn't, and we end up losing that manager. But it's a case of you can't even talk about performances anymore unless you win. The media shuts it down. The broadcasters shut it down. Look, we even have the Premier League trolling clubs now. Engagement farming has become something that the Premier League troll its own clubs. And everything boils down to winning. And then you're in Arsenal state, and it gets even worse because then they start winning in the way that you told them to change to for years. And now you're slagging that off. And it's like a lose-lose. What we need is more integrity in the conversations, the media pushing the right messages. And I think that will also seep into dressing rooms and football clubs.
Well, Arne Slot said it, didn't he? Arne Slot said it 3 times this season now in interviews. And I think whatever Liverpool fans think about Arne Slot, I would applaud him for, because I think it's very Jurgen Klopp-like. I think he would have said something as well. I think that to have a manager of a big Premier League club coming out and saying that the games aren't watchable, they're really boring. You know, sometimes as a fan, people just go, oh, yeah, I don't want to listen to you. But when managers are saying it, I think it's absolutely spot on. And look, you know, the United Palace game at the weekend, you've got, I think he's a crap referee anyway. He always looks like he's a rabbit in the headlights cabinet. He goes and books Henderson for time wasting. And I'm like, mate, this is just, it's like a pantomime yellow card, isn't it? Oh, the goalkeeper, let's book the goalkeeper for time wasting. What about the guy who's took 40 seconds to take a throw in? What about the free kick where start booking people for time wasting on throw-ins and everything, and you'll see a speeding up of the game. And the reason the set pieces has become so important is because the game is so slow. It's almost becoming like the NFL. You know, you slow the game down and you play in spurts, and football has always been a really difficult game to dictate from the training ground. But if you slow the game down and you make it be based around plays. So like, that's what they're doing with the kickoff. They're booting it long because somewhere on the training ground, they'll have figured out that they can go and do that. When it's a corner, you can put a corner and you can position people. When it's a throw in, you can position people. The game is slowing down, which is allowing coaches to plan plays. But if you play football for 45 minutes and it's fast paced, you can't plan plays. The rhythm, you've got to be more vibe. And fans want vibe football. They want spontaneity. And the way the Premier League get that is by speeding the game up and stopping coaches from being able to plan plays from throw-ins and goal kicks, etc. So we need to speed the game up so the ball's more in play and there's less opportunity for coaches to plan things out, which allows the player then to play on their instinct. But
this is, I'm going to say the name Bruno Fernandes, but this is half my issue with it. Players like Bruno Fernandes for the past 6 years have been attacked and ridiculed and lambasted half the time by our own supporters at Man United, taking too many risks, losing the ball, trying something flamboyant, keep it simple, keep it basic, stick to the pattern. I want patterns. That is what's led to this. Football fans have actually been given what they've asked for. We are now seeing the end result of robotic pattern of play football where risk is chastised. I remember listening to an interview with a Bayern Munich player that said Pep doesn't like us taking shots from the edge of the box. Why? Well, he showed us that less than 4% go in. So therefore, when you take a shot from distance, there's a 96% chance that you lose possession of the ball. So don't do it. When it comes to dribbles, on average, 44% of dribbles are successful. So therefore, unless you are Lionel Messi, I don't really want you dribbling past too many players because there's a 50%, more than a 50% chance you're going to lose possession for us. This type of football was celebrated as the greatest ever. And it was brilliant with a squad full of players like Bayern Munich, with a squad like Man City built. The issue is it became very hard for anyone else to beat it unless you were either one, highly pragmatic, which we're saying we don't like, or two, unless you copied it. And this is why I say fans are partly to blame because everybody begged for it. There are Man United fans who, when you listen to them speak, favorite coach, it's always a Pep-esque. Favorite players, it's always the Barca, tiki-taka, high percentage football. So none of your favorite players are Man United players, but you're a Man United fan. Nah. Your favorite managers aren't a Man United manager, but you're a Man United fan. Yeah. I didn't really like how Fergie and Man United played football. How do you even support us then? It doesn't even make sense. But it's because there was this indoctrination that is the way to play football. And of course, it is absolute optimum best. It was fantastic to watch. The problem is that everybody's ended up following suit or gone the other way where they're highly pragmatic and boring. And you put those two things together and you've got dishwater. That is what we now have in football. We need to encourage more Bruno Fernandes's.
How many good wingers are there in the league?
No, exactly. But it's because now what's happening is in the academies, they're teaching them to be more robotic. They're not teaching them to be spontaneous. And there is a knock-on effect. But fans, this is where fans annoy me. I love football fans. I get to speak to them, but this is where they annoy me. We never want to take accountability ourselves. Oh, I've got the worst owners in the country. Do you still fund them? Yeah. Well, you're partly to blame. Don't you dare blame me. You are, whether you like it or not. Oh, I hate how expensive football is. And do you pay, though? Do you pay all the subscriptions? Yeah. Well, if they keep paying it, they're going to keep fucking putting the prices up. We're accountable. Oh, I hate.
Well, did you see United? Like they've made the same money this season from 10 games that they made last season from 15.
Yeah.
Well, have they done that then? Because they're getting fans to pay more for less.
Well, but exactly, they put it up. And look, I didn't agree with them putting the prices up. But if you go, it's going to be there. And if I don't go, somebody else will. Yes, but then you're not funding. I understand that point. If I don't go, someone else will. Yes, but you're now physically, literally, you are enabling this. We enable all this stuff as football fans, and then we want to take no accountability when it goes wrong. We need to start pushing for more Bruno Fernandes's, more KDBs, more Steven Gerrards, more Mahrez's of this world. I'm just naming players that stand out in my mind. I'm not even going back too many years, right? We just need more players that want to take risks, that want to create opportunities. We need to stop hyper-focus. Oh, he lost possession 19 times today. Oh, he made the wrong decision. Yeah, players that take risk will make the wrong decision, because they're playing on the edge of the game. That edge of the game is what we love. I don't want everybody. If all my midfielders had 98% pass completions, we're not going to score any goals because we're never going to try and break a fucking line. I just honestly, it's that side of it for me is a killer. What about tactical fouls on wingers? Saka gets his legs kicked from underneath him, and refs allow it, and now it's tactics. Listen, I think tactical fouls need to be looked at. I mean, City typically get away with at least 4 or 5 cynical fouls every game before anyone's booked. I think people should get booked almost straight away. I think they should be harsher on fouls, so there's less of them. That way, the game flows more. Or you go the other way, where you allow more fouls, and you just go get the fuck up. Like you've got to go one or the other. You can't.
I'd go that way. I would.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with either way. By the way, the players have played enough. They're absolutely paid enough to risk getting hurt. But you've got to go one or the other. Where it is now is the game is every 30 seconds is a foul. You've either got to punish them harsh for them, or don't stop the game at all.
Well, the officials in the Premier League, in the Bundesliga, are very good. I mean, they do make mistakes. They do, but the VAR is really quick as well. But goal kicks, throw-ins, free kicks, they get on with them really, really quickly. Corners, and then they do let the soft fouls go. And then both teams know the soft fouls are going to get let go. So the classic Premier League one. I saw Luke Shaw do it. Might have been the Palace game. Hardly anyone touches him in the penalty box, in our penalty box, and you could just see. He's at when you dive, so your body's prepared for it. He just feels a little contact and goes on the floor, and he knows he's getting a free kick. And I thought it would be hilarious if that hadn't been given. I think the Palace player just dragged it back and scored, and everyone would go, Luke Shaw, you fucking idiot. But the point is, players would stop. It's like the right back when they've got their back in the corner flag and they feel the winger and they go down and the referee goes foul. It's almost like everyone knows it's a foul, but it's not a foul. And if you said that's not a foul, people would stop falling over. So again, it's not the player's fault. It's not the team's fault. It's the Premier League and the PGMOL. They can change the Premier League overnight. Don't do it until the summer now, but you could just go, we're not giving these soft fouls anymore. They're stupid. And there's no injustice because the players will go, I can't go down anymore. I can't just take a little tumble in the little corner now for a foul. Again, a lot of it comes down. It's like Spurs with the ownership, United with the ownership, and the Premier League. They're responsible. If they don't like the way Arsenal are going to win the league, they can make Arsenal not win the league next season by changing the rules. If Arsenal want to play it like that, so it always goes back to the same place to me. I know what I'd do in charge. I'd be like, we're not having soft fouls. We're having time limits. We're speeding up the game. And I guarantee we'll have a much better standard of football next year.
Does Mark not remember the 22-23 Arsenal season? We played fast and then refs allowed doubling up on Saka and kicking my right backs and not seeing red cards.
Yeah, but the thing with that Arsenal, I mean, Arsenal have finished second a few times. I'm not taking the piss. You have. And there's been seasons where you've played really, really well. I think the reason you didn't win the league wasn't referees or style of play. I think the reason you didn't win the league is because you didn't have the squad you've got now. I mean, you've had Odegaard, Saka, Saliba, Gabriel, Havertz injured multiple times this season. 2 years ago, I think United would be above you. I don't think you'd be able to deal with it. This year, you've got Eze, Madueke, Subamendi. You've got such an amazing squad. But you did play better. Arsenal have played better football and finished second. I don't blame Arteta for going, I don't give a fuck how we play, as long as we win the league. I think people forget, Arsenal just want to win the league. It's not about how you win it. It's about winning it.
Yeah, I hear that completely. Viewers, I want to thank you all for tuning in. United Stand will be back tonight back this afternoon at 2 p.m. It's 7 p.m. tonight. You'll go live, I assume.
Yeah, I got Wolves Liverpool tonight, innit?
Yes, I'll be covering that. We're live for Straight Facts at 3 p.m. and then we'll be live after the football this evening for the match reactions. Always a pleasure, Mark, to sit and speak. Viewers, like, share, and subscribe as always. And we are going to see you later on this afternoon. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. See you in a bit.